Have you ever looked around at your life, at the people, the achievements, the endless to-do lists, and felt a strange hollowness you can't explain? A quiet, gnawing voice in the background whispering, something's not right. No matter how much you distract yourself with work goals or even company, that inner silence starts to scream. Not loud, but steady. A feeling that you're not really living, just performing, just enduring. Does this sound familiar? If so, you're not alone. And no, you're not broken. What you're feeling may not be a flaw, but a call. You've probably tried to rationalize this emptiness before. Maybe you told yourself it's just stress or burnout, or that you simply need more sleep, more vitamins, more discipline. Maybe a doctor told you it's depression, gave it a name, gave you a label, gave you a pill for the morning, another for the night, something to help you sleep, something to help you get through the day. And gradually the raw ache inside becomes duller, numb, easier to carry but heavier all the same. But here's the question no one asks. What if the pain isn't the problem? What if it's the message? Carl Gustav Jung, the renowned Swiss psychiatrist and father of analytical psychology, saw through this illusion. He believed that what we often call mental illness is not simply a disorder or malfunction, but the psyche trying to heal itself, trying to scream louder than the noise of your daily life, trying to shake you awake. In Jung's view, symptoms like anxiety, depression, and existential dread are not random. They are warnings. Spiritual flares sent up by a soul that's been silenced, ignored, or forced into a life it never chose. So instead of numbing that suffering, Jung invites us to listen. Not superficially, but deeply like our life depends on it. Because it does. Have you ever stopped to wonder whose life are you actually living? Is the job you do truly yours, or just a role you've adopted to survive? Are the dreams you chase actually yours, or were they planted there by someone else's expectations? Are your relationships nourishing or just distractions from an inner void? Jung believed that many people live in a kind of soul amnesia, adapting to expectations, numbing their instincts, functioning at the cost of authenticity. And when the soul can no longer bear this disconnection, it begins to cry out. Through anxiety, through sadness, through that invisible weight pressing on your chest at 2 a.m., making you feel like a stranger in your own skin. And yet no one taught us how to hear this cry. Instead, we were taught to silence it, to be strong, to keep going, to not disturb you others, to be functional. And so we become quietly ill-applauded for our productivity while dying inside. Jung famously said, neurosis is always a substitute for legitimate suffering. In other words, many of the disorders we battle are not because we are weak or broken. They arise because we are running from the real pain we need to feel, the pain that forces transformation, the pain that demands truth, the pain that could set us free if only we would stop escaping it. But we're trained to avoid discomfort at all costs, to medicate, suppress, ignore. As long as we can still work, still smile, still check the boxes, the system is satisfied. But your soul isn't, and it will keep calling through illness, emptiness, and anxiety until you stop and truly listen. This video isn't for those looking to scroll their way out of discomfort. It's not another escape. It's for those who are tired of pretending, tired of smiling when they're crumbling inside, tired of being told their pain is inconvenient, tired of living someone else's version of life while their true self withers in silence. It's for those who feel like they're drowning but still have a spark of hope, a flicker of knowing that something more is possible, that there must be another way. And there is. But it doesn't start with more numbing. It starts with the opposite radical honesty. Let's be honest. You've been sad for weeks, maybe months. You've gone to a doctor. You've explained the tightness in your chest, the panic in your mornings, the constant feeling of disconnection. And what do you get? A prescription. Anxiety. Here, take this. 15 minutes. No soul, no story. Just a label and a pill. And just like that, your inner cry becomes a chemical imbalance. Something to manage, not understand. Something to shut up, not to explore. And this Jung warned us is where we go terribly wrong. Because this kind of medicine doesn't treat your soul. It treats your functionality. It helps you get back to work, back to producing, back to keeping the wheels of society turning. It helps you endure the unbearable, not escape it. And that is the tragedy. The system wants you productive, not fulfilled. It wants you quiet, not awake. So it gives you pills for your pain and calls it care. But what if your pain is sacred? Jung believed that most modern neuroses don't come from flawed brains, but from misaligned lives. When you betray your calling, ignore your deepest truths, or sacrifice your joy for survival, your soul rebels. But because the soul has no direct voice, it speaks through symptoms: anxiety, numbness, panic, despair. These are not just inconveniences, they are messengers. Let's talk about normal. Is it really normal to stay in a job that kills your spirit just to pay bills? To stay in relationships that keep you lonely just to avoid being alone, to chase goals that don't move you just to impress people who don't see you? And all the while you feel yourself slipping, fading, not fully dead, but not truly alive. That's not normal. That's soul abandonment. And the more you ignore it, the louder the body screams. But each time there's a new diagnosis, a new sedative, a new excuse, until one day you feel nothing at all. No pain, no joy, just numbness, what society calls adulthood. Jung warned that treating symptoms without seeking meaning leads to illusion. People might look better, but inside they're drifting further from themselves. And the longer this division persists, the gap between what is felt and what is lived, the deeper the collapse when it comes. Because you can outrun a lot of things, but you cannot outrun your soul. It will collect its debt eventually, whether through burnout, breakdowns, or a bottomless emptiness that no success, no substance, no distraction can fix. What we face today isn't just a crisis of mental health, it's a crisis of meaning. We've forgotten that suffering is not the enemy, that pain can be a teacher, that discomfort is sometimes the soul trying to break free. Instead, we live in a culture that fears pain, a society that avoids reflection, a system that medicates transformation before it can begin. But maybe, just maybe, the feeling that something is missing isn't a flaw in you. Maybe it's a sign that you are finally waking up. In the next part of this video, we'll explore what it really means to listen to your pain, to follow it, to let it guide you back to your truest self, not the one the world expects, but the one your soul remembers. So if you're ready to stop running, if you're ready to feel again, if you're ready to begin again, then stay with us, because this isn't just another video. It's a return to something you lost: yourself. In the previous part, we uncovered a painful truth. Your suffering may not be a flaw, but a signal. Not a pathology, but a call. And if we dare to listen, that call can lead us somewhere profound. According to Carl Jung, that path begins with suffering. Because to transform your life, you must first confront its pain. Suffering is not the end, it's the beginning. For Jung, suffering was never something to be simply avoided or silenced. It was not a failure to be medicated away. It was, in fact, the beginning of everything. The beginning of healing, the beginning of individuation, the beginning of becoming. But in the modern world, any form of discomfort is treated like a disease. Emotional pain is pathologized. Existential confusion is labeled as dysfunction. Unhappiness is diagnosed, medicated, and buried under productivity. We don't ask what the pain is trying to tell us. We ask how quickly we can make it disappear. But here's the devastating cost of that mindset. When we flee from suffering, we also flee from the chance to become who we truly are. How many lives are silenced too soon? Ask yourself, how many people are walking this earth silenced by treatments that camouflage symptoms without ever touching the soul? How many lives are sacrificed in the name of artificial stability? How many journeys are aborted before they even begin, because the discomfort of awakening was mistaken for a mental defect? We may never know the exact number, but we see the evidence all around us. People going through the motions. People producing, consuming, surviving, but not living. People buried in emotional numbness, disconnected from their inner truth. The real illness, the world that taught you to betray yourself. To begin answering these questions, we have to stop looking only inward. Because the roots of modern emotional collapse are not just personal. They are cultural. They are structural. They are environmental. Carl Jung understood this with piercing clarity. For him, suffering did not only come from within the mind, it came from the world we are forced to live in, a world that shapes us before we can even speak, that molds our identity before we can question it, that convinces us to hate ourselves in order to be accepted. We're dying in a world that pretends to set us free. Have you ever wondered why so many people are emotionally suffering even while surrounded by modern comforts, technology, and supposed freedoms? We have more access to knowledge, tools, and pleasure than ever before in history. Yet at the same time, we have never been so lost, so disconnected, so empty. What's y'all? Because the real sickness isn't just in our minds. It's in our environment, in the culture that raised us, in the stories we were told, in the system that values appearances over essence, efficiency over authenticity, performance over presence. From childhood, we were given a script: study hard, choose a practical career, be productive, buy things, take selfies, smile for others, hide your pain, don't cry, don't fail, don't ask too many questions, and most of all, don't feel too deeply. We are conditioned to follow, to please, to perform. But we are not taught to ask, what gives my life meaning? What do I truly want? Who am I underneath the mask? This absence of meaning is not accidental. It's design. We are systematically taught that our worth comes from external validation, from our job titles, from the digits in our bank accounts, from the admiration of strangers, from the number of likes and the sound of applause. But Jung knew this is a dangerous illusion, because the moment you tether your self-worth to things outside of yourself, you become eternally vulnerable to disappointment, rejection, and burnout. Worse still, you become estranged from your own soul. And in that distance, the emptiness begins to grow. Slowly, quietly, like a fog settling over your life. You check all the boxes. You do what you were told. But something's off. You feel like a guest in your own skin. You sense something's missing but can't quite name it. Disconnection is the root of modern suffering. What you are feeling isn't weakness. It's not failure. It's not something to be ashamed of. It is disconnection. Disconnection from what is instinctive, from what is real, from what is yours. And according to Jung, this disconnection is the breeding ground of the deepest psychological disturbances. But here's the twist: society doesn't want you to realize this, because disconnected people are easy to manage. They buy more. They doubt themselves. They follow orders. They crave approval. They obey. They are perfect consumers, perfect workers, perfect citizens. And when they break, the system offers numbing, not healing. When we finally collapse under the weight of it all, when anxiety, depression, or burnout takes hold, what does the system offer? A pill, a diagnosis, a new routine, another distraction. But never the truth, because truth is dangerous. Truth wakes people up, and awakened people question the very structure they were born into. To heal, you must confront the culture that wounded. You young believe that true healing demands confrontation, not just with the self, but with the world that wounded the self. You must face the false beliefs you were taught to adopt, the parts of yourself you were forced to repress, the sacrifices you made to be accepted, the betrayal of your own voice in the name of belonging. This is not easy work. It hurts. It means admitting that maybe your whole life has been a performance, that maybe you've never really been free, that maybe you became someone you were never meant to be, but it is also the only way forward. This is the beginning of individuation. Only by naming the source of your emptiness can you begin to fill it with truth. And this journey, this unraveling, this awakening has a name: individuation. It is the process Jung called the true path to healing. Not healing as in functioning better, but healing as in becoming whole. A glimpse into what comes next. In the next part, we'll go deeper into this journey of individuation. What does it really mean to break free from everything false, to stop being a reflection of others' expectations, and start becoming who you were always meant to be? It's not about productivity, not about surface level change. It's a transformation of the soul. And it begins the moment you stop running and start integrating what you've denied. But make no mistake, this path requires courage. It also requires surrender, because you cannot step into your wholeness while still clinging to your mask. Let's move forward, because the mask is cracking, and behind it, finally, there's a chance to meet the one person you've never truly known: yourself. In the last section, we explored the truth behind modern suffering, the disconnection from purpose, the silence of the soul, and the false promises of a society that prizes productivity over authenticity. But what if the answers you seek aren't somewhere out there, but deep within you to find them? Jung invites us into the one place we're most afraid to go, the shadow. Facing the shadow, the beginning of inner power. There's a side of you you've been taught to deny, the anger you've suppressed for years, the jealousy you pretend not to feel, the impulses you've buried under layers of shame, the parts of yourself you hope no one ever sees. But Carl Jung believed that true awakening doesn't begin with light, it begins with darkness. Not evil, not sin, but the unexplored, unloved, unaccepted parts of your psyche. He called it the shadow. And in one of his most iconic statements, he wrote, "Those who look outside dream. Those who look inside awaken. But to look inside is not easy. It means staring directly at what you've avoided your entire life. No masks, no excuse, no moral justifications. It means facing your fears, your repressed desires, your contradictions, and realizing these too are part of me. Why is this so important? Because the shadow you refuse to face does not disappear. It controls you from the dark. It sabotages your relationships. It whispers lies in your moments of self-doubt. It projects your inner pain onto others. It keeps you caught in cycles you don't understand. But here's the paradox. The moment you begin to integrate your shadow, when you stop resisting and start understanding, it transforms. No longer a threat, it becomes a source of power, of vitality, of authenticity. Stop fighting yourself. Start reconciling. You cannot live a full life if you are at war with yourself. Individuation. The lifelong journey Jung describes is not about perfection. It's not about becoming what others expect. It's about returning to inner wholeness. It's the act of piecing yourself back together after years of fragmentation. You stop trying to be flawless. You stop performing. You stop apologizing for your existence. And you start becoming who you really are. In Jungian psychology, the self is the central regulating core of the psyche. It is your truest identity, not the mask you wear, not the role you play, but the living wholeness of who you are in potential. Wholeness, not improvement. Here lies one of the most profound differences between modern self-help and Jung's teachings. The world says improve yourself. Jung says become yourself. The world demands perfection. Jung invites wholeness. The world rewards conformity. Jung dares you to be free. This is the great irony of our age. We are obsessed with becoming better. Yet the more we strive for improvement based on external ideals, the further we drift from our center. And that's why so many people feel exhausted, disoriented, hollow, despite all the self-help books, productivity hacks, and lifestyle upgrades. Because the healing we seek is not about better fitting into a broken world. It's about realigning our inner world with our true nature. This journey will challenge you. Let's be honest, this process isn't easy. It's not glamorous. It's not linear. It's lonely. It's messy. It's slow. You'll grieve identities you built for safety. You'll shed beliefs that once gave you comfort. You'll lose people who are only attached to your mask. And you'll have to walk into the wilderness of your own soul without a map. But it is also the only journey that gives life true meaning. Because once you start living from your center, everything changes. Your choices become intentional. Your suffering becomes transformative. Your relationships become sacred. And life, even with its pain, becomes worth living. Why don't more people do this? This brings us to a painful but necessary question. If this journey is so powerful, why do so few people walk it? Why do so many stay numb, stuck repeating patterns that destroy them? Jung believed the answer lies in what he called the absence of meaning, a silent epidemic that corrodes us from within, even when everything on the outside looks fine. We live in a world overflowing with material comfort, technology, and constant stimulation. Yet our souls starve. Why? Because what we lack is not access, but alignment. Not comfort, but purpose. Not serotonin, but direction. Life has lost its meaning. Jung observed that much of modern suffering stems from one brutal realization. Life has lost its meaning. And no, he wasn't referring to some grand religious or cosmic ideal. He was talking about personal meaning, about alignment between your actions and your essence, about waking up and feeling that who you are and what you do actually belong to each other. Without that, even the most luxurious life becomes unbearable. Without that, no pill, no success, no thrill can save you from the void. An epidemic of emptiness. Look around you. How many people do you know who are merely existing, trapped in cycles of empty obligations, social performances, and constant distraction. Tired, not just from doing too much, but from doing things that don't matter. Lives packed with activity, but devoid of meaning. Jung warned that when we live this way, we collapse inward. The soul begins to wither. Disorientation sets in. Symptoms like anxiety, depression, and burnout become cries for help that no one knows how to interpret. And the system responds, as always, with superficial fixes. More entertainment, more medication, more hustle. But what's really missing? It's not a lack of pleasure. It's a lack of truth. People are living lives they didn't choose. Careers chosen to please their parents. Relationships maintained for fear of being alone. Cities that suffocate their spirit. Routines that erase their identity day after day. And the body feels it. The soul recoils. The mind breaks. Because this is not just mental illness, it's spiritual displacement. There is no chemical cure for lack of meaning. You cannot medicate your way out of a meaningless life. You cannot sedate your soul and expect to thrive. What's missing isn't serotonin. It's self-connection. What's absent isn't dopamine. It's direction. Jung's message was urgent, not comfortable. Stop merely functioning, start living. And to do that, you must be brave enough to say, this life isn't mine. I refuse to continue like this. So where do you begin? How do you reconstruct meaning in a world built to distract you from yourself? Jung believed the answer lies in reconnecting with the unconscious. Because buried in the forgotten, neglected, repressed parts of you, there is truth. There is purpose. There is the map back to yourself. And in the next section, we'll explore how the unconscious, far from being a repository of trauma, can become your most powerful ally in healing. Because what you've been avoiding may be the very thing you need to finally begin living with meaning. If this message resonates with you, consider reading my ebook Beyond the Shadow linked in the pinned comment. It breaks down Jung's core insights and gives you tools for inner transformation. Most people say they want to heal, but few are willing to pay the price. Because true transformation doesn't begin with affirmations or habits. It begins with a decision to face the truth, to stop running, and to come home to yourself. In the last part, we uncovered the painful truth. Many people live disconnected lives driven by habits and roles they never chose. But why? Because they have never faced the most vital part of themselves, the unconscious. And healing, as Jung taught, always begins with this descent. The descent into the self where true healing begins. Every journey of transformation begins with confrontation. Not with the outside world, but with your own soul. It's not glamorous, it's not easy, but it's necessary. Carl Jung taught us that there is no true healing without contact with the unconscious. But what exactly is the unconscious? It is not, as many assume, a forgotten attic of repressed memories or old traumas. No, it is a vast symbolic universe, a living world beneath your awareness containing every part of you that you've exiled, your rawest instincts, your deepest fears, your truest impulses, and your most painful truths. It is the child you silenced, the dream you abandoned, the rage you swallowed. Everything you pretended not to feel is waiting there, not to hurt you but to be heard. Why facing the unconscious matters? You might wonder, why should I open this door at all? Because what you don't face rules you. What you suppress possesses you. As Jung so powerfully put it, what you do not bring to consciousness returns as fate. Think about it. You think you're unlucky in love, but you're unconsciously choosing the same partners driven by wounds you've never explored. You believe you're sabotaged at work, but deep down you fear the responsibility that comes with success. You feel like the world is against you, but it's often your past traumas dictating your every move. The unconscious is like a dark mirror. It doesn't show you who you want to be. It shows you who you really are. And that can be terrifying because it forces you to see beyond the mask. It shatters the fantasy of control. It demands honesty with yourself. But here lies the paradox. In the fear lies the cure. What you're avoiding is exactly where your healing lives. The more you ignore the unconscious, the more reactive, impulsive, and fragmented you become. You lash out without knowing why. You make decisions that feel wrong but can't stop repeating them. You feel lost and hollow even when everything seems fine on the outside. But the moment you stop running, something shifts. The moment you start listening, you begin to integrate. Jung called this the expansion of consciousness, And it only begins when you stop silencing yourself and start exploring your inner terrain. How do you listen to the unconscious? The unconscious doesn't speak in logic or language. It speaks in images, in metaphors, in dreams. It whispers through symbols, feelings, sudden insights, and emotions that seem to come from nowhere. But it's not nothing. It's you, the real you, the forgotten you, the buried authentic self waiting to return. You can connect to it through dream work. What's recurring? What images haunt or inspire you? Art, drawing, painting, writing forms that bypass logic. Silence and solitude. The unconscious can only be heard when noise fades. Meditation and mindfulness. Slowing down the mind to make space for deeper awareness. Depth analysis or therapy. Guided dialogue with the inner self. As you begin listening, a subtle shift begins. You no longer react blindly, you respond with awareness. You begin to understand your pain, your patterns, and your past. And most importantly, you begin to reclaim your power. From hostage to creator. Until you know what lives inside you, you remain a hostage of expectations, of childhood wounds, of collective norms. But once you dive into the unconscious and begin to integrate its contents, you become free. Free to choose, free to create, free to suffer with purpose, not confusion. That anxiety that once paralyzed you, it becomes a message. That sadness that overwhelmed you, it becomes an invitation to let go of what no longer serves you. This process demands everything from you: courage, stillness, depth. It will ask you to let go of the surface, but it will give you back your soul. What's stopping you from starting? At this point, only one question remains. If all of this is true, why do so many people still live on autopilot? The answer is as old as human emotion: fear. Fear of change, fear of loss, fear of letting go of what is familiar even when it's killing you. This fear paralyzes millions. They know something's wrong, they feel the emptiness, but they stay. Because awakening demands sacrifice. It asks you to leave behind your comfort, your labels, your excuses. But it also offers something priceless in return: your authentic self. The most important choice of your life. There comes a moment, perhaps this moment, when you must choose. Not just a small decision, not just a lifestyle tweak, but the decision, the choice that defines the rest of your life: to continue living, anesthetized, or to awaken, to keep being who the world shaped, or to become who you really are. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But this privilege comes at a price. You must give up the lie. You must stop pretending. You must say no to a life that isn't yours." You are being called. Can you hear it? If you've made it this far, it's not by accident. Something inside you, however faint, is stirring. Maybe it's a whisper, maybe it's already a scream, but it's there. The call to awaken, to stop accepting a life of endless work, distraction, and surface-level living, to stop settling for functioning when you were meant for fullness. You don't need another mask. You need a mirror, one that reflects the truth you've always carried. But that truth will only reveal itself if you walk toward it. A sacred path forward. Most people will continue to sleep. They'll chase more things, more followers, more comfort, and inside they will rot in silence. But you don't have to be another statistic. You can choose to say this isn't enough. Choose to leave behind the anesthetic. Choose to build a life that feels like yours. It will hurt. It will confuse you. It may cost you everything you thought you needed, but it will give you everything you truly are. One final question for you. So now I ask you honestly, what do you need to let go of to start truly living? What illusion are you still holding on to? What story are you telling yourself that keeps you small? Drop it in the comments. One sentence or shormons, one word, one truth. Because the moment you write it, you begin to wake up. You break the cycle of silence. You become present. If this video touched something in, you don't stop here. There's another video you need to see. Not because it's the next in the series, but because it's essential. You've made it this far. That means you're ready to go deeper. And now more than ever, it's time to continue.